So let's talk about bools. Bool is short for Boolean. If you hear bool or Boolean, they mean the same exact thing. And it was introduced by George Bool in his book, The Mathematical Analysis of Logic in 1847. But what is a Boolean in terms of programming? Well, a Boolean is a data type that can only be assigned one of two different values, either a true value or false value. And that's it. It honestly doesn't get any more complex than that. And what might take you by surprise is that Booleans are the most fundamental building block for programming. Most of your code will simply just check if something is true or not, and complexity is added by combining a bunch of Booleans. But we'll get into that in just a bit. But for now, let's get into the nitty-gritty on how you go about using Booleans. And we're going to do this by using two different languages, because I think it can be really helpful for you to learn how they compare and contrast, and plus, you'll pretty much learn two languages at once. So on the left is the language C# using the IDE Visual Studio, which should interest you if you want to do Windows development, or if you want to make games using a popular game engine called Unity. And on the right is the language Python 3 using the IDE Visual Studio Code, which should interest you if you want to get into general programming or data science. Alright, so here I have two brand new console projects, and if you don't know how to make a new console project in either C# or Python or both, be sure to check out the video in the description. It's called How to Install an IDE, and at the end of that video I'll show you how to do that. Alright, so the first thing I want to get into today is just some basic Boolean syntax. So first thing I'm going to do is just delete these two lines, don't need them. They come standard with every new C# project. And then I'm going to cast a Boolean data type, bool, and then I'm going to create a variable called pizza time. Then I'm going to assign it to be true. Now, the first thing that you need to know about Booleans is that they only have two states. They can either be true or they can be false. That is about the only flexibility that a Boolean has when it comes to assigning it. But over in Python, Booleans have just a little bit more flexibility. So I'm going to create a new variable. I'm going to call it pizza time, of course. Then I'm going to assign a true value to it. And now it knows that this is a Boolean. But I can also assign a false value to it, or I can also assign a 1 value to it. That equals true. And lastly, I can assign a 0 value to it, and that equals false. And just to prove it to you, I'm going to show you all the different cases. So we'll do true here. And then to check it, we need an if statement. So I'm going to say if pizza time, then we need to print pizza. Oh wait, I meant a string, pizza, like that. I'm going to hit the play button and you will see that it prints out pizza. Next, I'm going to change this to false value and it should print out nothing. If we hit the play button, you see nothing was printed, just as we expected. And now I'm going to change this to be a 1 value and hit the play button. You'll see that again, we get pizza. Pretty nice. And lastly, I'm just going to say pizza time equals 0, save it, hit the play button, and you see that we get nothing printed. So what's going on here? Because clearly the pizza time variable is an integer, and we're saying if 0, then print pizza time. That doesn't make any sense, right? And that's one of the benefits to Python being an interpreted language. It allows you to pass in integers in a conditional statement. And if it's a 0, then it's going to convert that into a false value. But if it's 1, it's going to convert that into a true value. In fact, any numeric value that is not a 0 and it's being used as a conditional statement will return a true value. So pizza time equals 9, save, hit play. You'll see that it prints out pizza. Pizza time equals -3, hit save, hit play, still prints out pizza. This isn't only limited to integers. You can also use floats. So if we say pizza time equals 0.0000001, hit save, you'll see here pizza time is now a float. We hit play and still it will print out pizza. And this is unique to Python. We can't even think to do that in C#. If we were to even try it, we get all sorts of errors. So that's just one extra flexibility that you have with using the language Python. Font increase. So now I want to get into the many operators that Booleans have, which is just a testament to how powerful these things are. But let's start with the equality operator. Now, let's say that you want to create some like user login system, right? So I'm just going to create a couple of strings here. I'm going to say string password typed. PT stands for password typed. I'm going to say equals ABC123. And then let's do another string, semicolon, of course, and then do another string. And this is going to be PA for password actual. And we're going to say equals, again, ABC123. Okay, so let's say that this is the user's actual password, PA, ABC123, and what they typed is ABC123. So how can we check to see if they match? Well, we'd have to use something that's called the equality equal operator. And the equality equal operator looks like this. PT equals PA. And that's all that's to it. Now, I know what you're thinking. This looks really confusing. And I've been programming for about 13 years now, and I agree with you. So one thing that I usually like to do with my Booleans is, first and foremost, I like to put parentheses around whatever is like the Boolean that I'm checking for. It just makes it a lot easier to read when I'm scanning lines of code. But to explain to you what's going on here, again, equals equals, that's two equals back to back, is what we call an equality equals operator. Do not get it confused with one equal. One equal is simply just the assignment operator. It means that you want to assign something to a variable. Two equals, again, is checking if two things equal each other. So if we were to read this full line, we're simply just initializing a Boolean variable called pizza time, and we're assigning the value true or false to it with this Boolean operation here. And what this Boolean operation simply does is it just checks if PT is equal to PA. If it is, then pizza time will equal true. But if it's not, it's going to return a false, and pizza time will equal false. I mean, pretty simple, right? We just ask if two things equal each other. If it is, then give us a true. If it doesn't, give us a false. And as simple as this is, if you've ever logged into anything before, this is pretty much all they're doing, with maybe a couple extra checks on top of that. All right, I think I beat that horse well enough, but I keep on hammering this in because it's really important that you understand this step. If you understand what's going on here, then I think a lot of programming is going to be really easy for you to understand, because this is like one of the staples to programming. Moving on, just to prove to you that this works as I am saying that it does, we're going to come down here and do a console.writeLine. Just print this to the console, pizza time. And then we also need a console.readKey. This just makes sure that the console doesn't immediately close when we run it. Hit the start button up here, and then I'm going to bring the console on screen, and as you can see, it returns a true value. But if we make one of these slightly off, if I turn this to be 124 instead, and we hit the start button, you can see that what it returns to us is a false value. So it is not pizza time because they do not match. They are not equal. And now over in Python, I'm just going to quickly recreate the same scenario. Pizza time equals, well, we need something before that. We need PT equals ABC123. PA equals a string ABC123, and then pizza time equals PT equals PA, like that. Going to add the print. Let's do print pizza time here, and then I'm going to hit the play button and returns a true value. Perfect. And of course I can make one of these slightly off and then hit the play button and returns a false value. Now, I really hope that all that made sense, because if it did, everything from this point on is going to be really easy to understand. But next, let's move on to our next operator, which is the equality not equal operator. And how the equality not equal operator works is, let's say that you want to check for like some bad word, right? So we're going to change PA to be bad word, right? And so instead of checking if they are the same, you're going to check if they are not the same. And not is going to be indicated by a exclamation point. Now, what this is saying is, if they do not equal each other, then I want you to return a true value. However, if they do equal each other, then I want you to return a false value. It pretty much just flips the Boolean operation, which again is what we want in this scenario because we're trying to filter out bad word. If what you typed is bad word, then it's not pizza time. And just to prove to you that this will return a true because they do not equal each other, I'm just going to hit the play button up here and then bring the console on screen. You can see that it returns a true value. So that's pretty much everything that you need to know about the equality operators. Next, let's get into the relation operator, starting with the greater than operator. So imagine that you have some login system and you want to limit the amount of times that a user can log in. Well, one thing you can do is use one of the relation operators. Let's just start with a greater than. So first thing, let's just ignore these two variables for now and create new ones. We're going to make an integer. I'm going to call it log attempt equals, let's just say it's 3. And then let's make another integer and call it log max equals 5, for instance, right? So what we can do is come down to our pizza time boolean and we can replace this with log max is greater than log attempt. And what this is doing is it's essentially checking if log max is greater than log attempt. And seeing as log max is 5 and log attempt is 3, this is going to return a true value for our pizza time boolean variable. And just to prove to you that this is correct, I'm going to hit the start button, bring the console over. You can see that we have a true value. So that's the greater than operator. We could also use the less than operator, which is going to check if log max is less than log attempts, return a true value if that is true, a false value if that is false. But there is also a greater than equals to operator, which just checks both if it's either greater than or equal to the log attempts. And then finally, of course, there is the less than and equal to operator that will check if log max is less than or equal to log attempt. And over in Python, these operators don't change at all. I'm just going to get up to speed. I'm going to do log attempt equals 3 and then log max equals 5 and then come down to our pizza time boolean and do log max is greater than log attempt, and then I'm going to run that just to prove this works the same, and voila. And the last operators I want to go over are the and or operators. So here is where you're really going to be able to see the power of Booleans being demonstrated. All right, so let's bring back our old scenario. So we're going to change this back to ABC123 for our past actual, and then our past typed is also ABC123. And let's replace this Boolean operation with PT equals equals. That is our equality equal operator equals PA. So what if you wanted to check if the password is a match and they're under a certain number of login attempts? Well, we can use our AND operator. And in C#, it's done like this. You just type the AND ampersand and then another AND ampersand. And that is the AND operator. And then after that, you can write out another Boolean operation. So we're going to write log attempt is less than log max. And so what this full Boolean is asking, it's just pretty much asking, do our password typed and our password actual, do they match? And the two and ampersands, and are we under, our log attempts less than our log max? If true, if both of these are true, then return a true value for our pizza time. But if either of them are false, doesn't matter which one, then return a false value for our pizza time. And just to prove to you that that is how this operation is done, I'm going to press the start button on top and bring the console window open. You can see that we have a true value here. And all it takes is for one of these to be false. And I'm just going to change this to be ABC124, and then I'm going to hit save, and then I'm going to hit the start button and bring the console window over here, and you can see that we have a false. Even though one is true, we're asking for an and. That means they both have to be true in order for pizza time to be true. And just a quick side note, I generally like to use a lot of parentheses, as many as possible when it comes to Boolean operations like this, like the segment, because it just makes it a lot easier for me to read when I'm just going through lines of code. Parentheses let me know, okay, there's a Boolean operation here. I see the and, I know there's another one. It just makes it a lot easier for me. And even sometimes I'll do like an overall parentheses over the entire Boolean operation. It just helps me read it a lot easier. I don't know if it helps you or not, but that's a tip that you could use. And over in Python, the syntax is just a little different. So I'm just going to get caught up to speed. Going to change this back to pass 1, 2, 3. Oops, that's not pass, is it? That's ABC 1, 2, 3. Sorry, ABC 1, 2, 3, and then we change this to be PT equals PA. Why did you not IntelliSense for me? And the way that we do an and in Python is you literally just type out the word and log attempt is less than log max. Boy, that has became a really small window. Maybe I should zoom out just a bit. Cool. So now I'm just going to prove this by hitting the play button, and you can see we got a true value. But yet again, all it takes is one of these Boolean operations to be false, and the entire thing becomes false. And I'm proving that by changing this to 4, hitting the play button, and we got a false value returned to us. But what if you wanted to be a merciful social media developer, right? Where you don't care if they get one or the other wrong, as long as they get one of them wrong. First of all, don't ever do this. But if you wanted to do this, you would simply just change the and operator into an or operator. And in C#, this is done by replacing the 2 ampersands with 2 vertical lines. I'm not sure what these characters are called, but you replace it with 2 vertical lines. It's on the same key that the backslash key is on. Just looked it up. I guess it's called the vertical bar character. Never knew that. But anyhow, this will now check if either of them are true, which we know that one of them is false because PT does not equal PA. But the second one is true because log attempts is less than the log max. And to prove that this will return true because one of them is true, I'm going to hit the start button and then bring the window over. You can see that we have a true value returned. And over in Python, the OR operator is just a bit different. Just as you write out and for the and operator in Python, you have to write out or for the OR operator in Python. And now over in Python, the OR operator is just a bit different. Just like how you had to write out and for the and operator, you have to write out or for the OR operator in Python. And of course, just to prove that this works, I'm going to hit the play button up here and you'll see we get a true value returned. So I hope you can see what makes Booleans so powerful in the world of programming. Just from this simple example alone, we already have a Boolean that checks for the log attempts next to, the actual password typed. And then we can take this Boolean and embed that into another Boolean and just keep on adding complexity and complexity. Booleans are incredibly powerful and they're really important to understand. And yeah, there you have it, guys. That is pretty much everything that you need to get started programming in regards to Booleans.